Oasis, like other rock bands such as AC/DC, had a knack for writing songs that were instantly recognisable, not from the riff, but just from the rhythm guitar part. For example, if I played this simple 2-chord sequence in any pub in the UK, everyone would immediately know what I was playing, cheer, and probably start to sing along. And of course, the exact same could be said of Wonderwall, which I'm not going to cover in this video, because that would probably be a bit too predictable. That ability for creating signature rhythm guitar parts is something that makes Oasis music instantly accessible to many first-time listeners and to new fans who weren't alive at the time. And of course, having signature guitar parts that are a little easier than, say, Love Is the Law by the Seahorses means that guitarists who are just learning can pick up a guitar and pretty quickly, without too much blood, sweat and tears, sound like the record. So today I want to share with you my top 5 Oasis rhythm guitar moments, and this is an Xvive U2 guitar wireless system. One end in the guitar, the other in the amp. I already tried these out the other day at band practice and they worked perfectly, so I'm going to try them out today, plugged into my acoustic guitar, straight into the preamp. This is the transmitter which connects to the guitar. And this is the receiver that connects to your amp or your interface. So, in at number 5, it's a song that definitely should have made it onto the Masterplan compilation album. It's Better People, a Morning Glory era B-side from the Roll With It single. Now this is one of the simpler ones on the list, but it's just so incredibly catchy, using the straightforward power of chords and rhythm. The Oasis track itself was recorded without a drum kit, but weirdly, because the style of the rhythm playing is so percussive, it just doesn't need it. How great is that rhythm part? And so far so good with the Xvive wireless system. I reckon they sound pretty good. Me and my band are going to be doing a bit of touring this year, so I'm probably going to take them out and try them out on the road as well. They've apparently got a range of 70 feet or something, which is mad. If you're interested in seeing us out and about this year, here are the tour dates. And now, in at number 4, it's one of the best tracks on the criminally underrated Be Here Now album. It's Getting Better Man. Now this song has got a pretty creative chord sequence both in the verses, the bridges and the choruses. I love how literally every section includes a non-diatonic chord. Most pop songs today just stick to chords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, never ever changing key or breaking out of that basically nursery rhyme palette of chords. However, in this song, literally every different section contains something you typically wouldn't hear in a crappy pop song. So here's the verse sequence. It just plays that 4 times. But that G is a non-diatonic chord, which starts to introduce the slightly beatly feel to the sequence. Here's the bridge. So there, in the bridge, the non-diatonic chord is the E minor. If we were staying in the major key, that would be an E major. And here's the chorus. And of course, the non-diatonic chord there is the B7. Quite a signature Oasis chord. But the place where the chords become really cool is the solo section. So on the chorus just before the solo, the chord hangs on a D, which is a chord 4 in the key of A. Over the top of this, you've got Noel playing a little lead guitar riff in drop D, so I'm going to add that in here. And then when the solo kicks in, Noel kind of forces a key change by, instead of soloing in A, the key the song is in, he solos in D minor. And then it kicks into the build-up at the end of the solo, which is basically a D chord being continually shifted up the neck while keeping the root note the same. And right after that, Liam forces the key change back to A with his voice. So, because of the creativity in the chord sequence, the constantly changing timing of the chord changes themselves, all the non-diatonic chords and the key changes, It's Getting Better Man, for me, is easily one of the best chord sequences they came up with in the Be Here Now era. However, probably the coolest version of this song, in my opinion, was the one they did live at Air Studios. You can hear the chords a bit clearer. This version, to me, sounds like something that wouldn't have been out of place on Definitely Maybe. So these little things are USB chargeable, which is definitely an improvement on the old way of having a million 9-volt batteries in your backpack, half of which are probably out of charge. But I think probably the biggest appeal of them is that they're really compact. Anyone who's done a bit of touring will know that you've got to throw everything typically into one van, and space is usually really at a premium, especially if you're taking a whole drum kit. Something we're trying to do this year in the band is to try and keep our touring rig as compact as possible so we don't have to keep hiring vans to fit everything in. I'm hopefully soon going to be switching to a floor pedal amp. This is the one that I particularly like the look of. It's a Victory, just to keep space down. And these little fellas are really compact as well. So hopefully that should work out on the road. On now to song 3. And this one is another B-side, this time from the Definitely Maybe era. From the Live Forever single, another track that 100% should have been on the master plan, it's Cloudburst. And this particular version of the song, the one on the B-side, has always fascinated me because there's loads of different versions of Cloudburst out there, but this is the only one that really contains the full rhythm guitar riff. So why is that? Well, Oasis had a really unique approach to crafting their guitar parts, especially in the early days. Quite often, what they would do is go into the studio with the chords and words, but then Noel Gallagher would often just layer up multiple guitar parts, loads and loads of options, material to work from. And then, in post, the final version of everything, the riff, the solo, would be sorted out between him and Owen Morris. A great example of this is the song Columbia, where Noel recorded countless lead guitar lines and solos, and then Owen Morris refined it down, selecting elements from each to create the finished product. I think this might be one of these guitar parts, a kind of composite of loads of different tracks that Noel layered up and ended up getting sorted out in the mix. However, because as far as I know, they never played this specific version of the riff when they played the song live, I'm not 100%. But anyway, here is my version of the Cloudburst verse rhythm guitar part. A definite shout out has to be made at this point as well to Tony, the drummer. The McCarroll groove behind the kit is definitely a massive part of what makes this riff swing so well, and a huge part of what gives this song so much unbelievable attitude and groove. So the guys at Xvive sent me these to try out and review. A pretty cool feature of them is you can have one transmitter going from your guitar and then multiple receivers in different places. So say if you're doing a live gig that you want to record, you can put the transmitter into your guitar, a receiver into your backline, and another one into your interface that you're recording the gig through. They've got 4 selectable channels as well, which is pretty cool, and means that hopefully you won't be crossing wires, digitally speaking, with any other band members or the Wi-Fi. Okay, on with the countdown. In at number 2 is the title track of Oasis's second album, Morning Glory. Despite this being more than just a nod to the riff from The One I Love by R.E.M., this is still one of my favourite Noel Gallagher riffs of all time. And this is another one just like Cloudburst, where the recorded version of the main riff was actually a studio composite that, as far as I'm aware, they never performed live in exactly the same way as it was done on the record. Now, there are a ridiculous amount of live Oasis bootlegs out there, and I definitely haven't listened to them all, but I do think this version of the song on the album and this guitar part actually only happened in session at Rockfield, and also that probably Owen Morris was largely to thank for the final version. It's a funny one as well because it's buried so low down in the mix. The first time I actually heard the riff being played on its own on an acoustic guitar, I didn't even recognise it. My guitar teacher at school was playing it in one of the practice rooms, and I think I was outside waiting for my lesson. When I went in, I said, "What was that riff? That's amazing." He said, "Morning Glory." I was just a young teenager, the vast majority of my music was on tape, and at 13 I most definitely did not have my studio ears. But I went back and listened, and bloody hell, it was there, buried in amongst the electrical storm. It was definitely there. So here it is, the composite Morning Glory riff. And finally, in at number 1, it's the Be Here Now era masterpiece that the band never actually finished. One of the Mustique demos that never made it beyond the demo stage. A B-side to the Do You Know What I Mean single. In at number 1, my personal favourite is Angel Child. I love this song, and I wish they had made a completed version of it. There's only one other comparable acoustic ballad from that whole era that they did finish, which is Don't Go Away. And I always imagined the finished version of Angel Child being something along the same lines. They did, of course, also do Going Nowhere in that era, but that was more of a massive orchestral piece, a bit more like the Master Plan, as opposed to a more stripped-back, soulful ballad. Once again, on the acoustic version that was released as a B-side, we get this brilliant composite track that can be performed on one guitar. And at school, that's how we all used to sit around and play it in the 90s, on one guitar. So here is my version, at least, of the verse rhythm guitar riff to Angel Child. I think that's absolutely gorgeous, and here's the kind of bridgy, chorusy bit that also incorporates some picking. And here's the solo section, rearranged by me on one guitar. So, that's my top 5 Oasis rhythm guitar parts. There's actually so many to choose from that I fully expect many people to have completely different lists that literally feature none of the songs I've chosen. But nonetheless, let me know your top 5 in the comments below. And also, let me know what you think of the sound running my guitar through these. Last night, I also tried it out live. Me and my band did a secret, unannounced local warm-up gig in preparation for the tour, and I used the wireless system there. And the major thing that struck me about it is, if there was any lag or delay, it was so minute as to be absolutely undetectable. So having tried them in rehearsal, in a home recording setup, and now live as well, I think they're great, and so far I can definitely recommend them. If you like the look, sound and the features, I've put a link in the description to the product. And big thanks to the guys at Xvive for sending me a sample to try. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.